Welcome to Slash Forward, and to the final week of the giveaway. This week's Tuesday video is going to be the 2006 Zomcom Fido. Let's get to it. The movie opens with an old-school narrative film strip, which brings back the OG cause of zombification in mysterious space particles. Luckily, the key to destroying zombies, securing our towns, and ultimately domesticating the festering brood,
the zombies' desire for human flesh has been contained,
has been discovered by our corporate overlords. This film is being shown to a class of kids too old to not know this, and acts as an introduction for Mr. Bottoms, Zomcon's new head of security who now lives in their quaint community. When he attempts to answer any questions, our shy protagonist, Timmy, gets volunteered by a couple of front-row bootlickers, so he takes the opportunity to get existential.
Are zombies dead or alive?
Then it's off to practice headshots, and things get temporarily but predictably psychotic.
It felt empty. Attention, the pair of you.
Timmy then rides his bike home and is welcomed by the standard afternoon ritual of wholesome baked goods and admonishments for his physical appearance. That night, we see that Helen has been reading the handbook when Bill comes home, and she butters him up for a surprise, a level up to their class standing in the form of a new zombie butler. We come to find that Bill is somewhat of a coward, which has been holding them back in the local social circles, but he comes around and agrees to go with this new situation, but with some conditions. The next day, Bill does his best to avoid interacting directly with his son, leading Timmy to take a trip to the park, which leads to some classic bullying, which eventually leads to some classic substitute fathering. Now warmed up to his pal, Timmy names their zombie Fido and attempts a game of fetch. As is so often the case, this leads to an upskirt misunderstanding involving Mrs. Henderson. The subsequent gratuitous beating causes a collar malfunction, resulting in a well-deserved mauling. Timmy is busted in on while cleaning Fido. He's chastised for breaking many rules, causing him to clam up about Mrs. Henderson, fearing what might happen to Fido or the family as a result. We learn more about this when their new neighbor Mr. Bottoms comes calling. He confirms the punishment for a wayward zombie involves banishment to the wild zone. Timmy decides to let the issue drop, confident that ignoring it will allow it to fade out of memory. Or not. He actually ends up going to cover his tracks, but finds most of the evidence missing. When he catches up with Mrs. Henderson, he destroys both the evidence and his innocence, as he's intent on giving her a proper burial. That night, Timmy discovers the collar problems. His neighbor, Mr. Theopolis, demonstrates his proficiency in manipulating zombies, both with and without collars, for reasons better imagined than discussed.
Not the deep family.
That Sunday, the family goes to the weekly public funeral, which Bill seems to appreciate due to its finality. Back in town, we see an unfolding calamity. The next day, things are mostly back to normal. Bill abandons his family while Mr. Bottoms continues to investigate the potential security breach. The two young jagoffs make an unfounded but true accusation about Fido's involvement in the recent events that seem to revolve around the disappearance of Mrs. Henderson. They're brushed off, but it does put the seed in the back of his mind. Timmy takes Fido on a long hike and is eventually confronted by the two miniature psychopaths. They have a whole plan about killing Timmy and Fido, framing Fido, and being declared heroes. Unfortunately, they wither at the first sign of true danger and are quickly taken care of. Timmy, still tied up, finds that zombies do apparently still have some degree of humanity and the ability to learn and form new friendships. Fido goes to fetch help and they make it back just in time. And it turns out Helen has a particular knack for murder. After finishing the job and cleaning up, they head home. Meanwhile, landscapers uncover Timmy's shoddy grave digging. The Robinsons join a cookout with the Bottomses, where Mr. Bottoms suggests to Bill that there's an excess of familiarity with the family zombie, which can lead to problems like the Henderson incident. This suggestion is completely bewildering to him, but is brought sharply into focus when he gets home and sees that Fido has usurped his essentially vacant position within the family. After confirming they did, in fact, find a ball, Mr. Bottoms also notices Timmy's name on it, placing him at the scene of the crime. This is enough for them to take Fido the next morning. Timmy continues to ask difficult questions, unraveling the delicate adult world.
How come they blame the bullies for Mrs. Henderson getting killed?
We agreed we weren't gonna have to talk about this.
Bill attempts to make amends by taking him to school and talking to him about killing his feelings. He also gets a handgun. However, this character growth is short-lived.
I'm pregnant.
I just don't think on my salary I can afford another funeral.
The next morning, Cindy Bottoms confirms she heard her father mention Fido being utilized at the factory. Mr. Theopolis helps Timmy gain entry to the facility under the guise of bringing in the old ball and chain for a tune-up. Timmy's parents, having found the note in his room, are not far behind. Theopolis creates a distraction, sacrificing several innocent bystanders who just happen to be waiting patiently in line. Timmy finds Fido and Mr. Bottoms finds Timmy. They all converge on the gate to the wildlands as Mr. Bottoms teaches Timmy a life lesson. As they struggle for control, Timmy manages to let himself back in just in time to watch his dad get shot. Fido noms on Mr. Bottoms before they peace out and leave Zomcon to clean up the mess. Cut to a new morning, we find it's another Sunday. This time, though, they're burying Bill, a celebratory occasion as we see he's being buried with the head casket, just like he always wanted. The movie then ends on a final scene confirming everyone has grown into better, more fulfilling lives. And that was Fido, a zombie movie with heart that's both funny and satirical. Definitely worth checking out. If you're not subscribed, I'd love for you to be a part of the channel. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.